My question is about pleasure, and it is specifically about sexual pleasure, and how often in relationships, I or the partner that I'm with prefers the fantasy of bad things that bring them pleasure. In other words, I'm specifically sometimes pain or sometimes feeling shameful or things like this. And to be honest, I'm perfectly open to anything that feels good. But I worry about my partners and their residual dwelling or sometimes preconceived things that they have that makes them feel bad outside the experience. I don't know if I'm really articulating this well, but...
I think everyone in the room heard you clearly.
Okay. All right, they're all in their underwear. They're all in their underwear. Actually,
Oh,
no,
everyone
that's kind
nodded
of
the room.
bad for this. Whatever, it's already out there. So...
We're out of time, aren't we?
This is very real for me, though, and I really, while I'm very comfortable in my own sexuality and it's all over the map and I'm okay with that, I want to make sure that people that I'm with are not, in a way, using me, right? My openness to continue things that are negative in them, because I don't want to perpetuate any negativeness while I'm getting pleasure and they're getting pleasure. I don't want it, just because the mechanism that we experience in that whatever situation we're in happens to have connotations or an underpinning of things that are negative. The fact that we're enjoying it and we choose to be there, I think is good.
We think we can answer this easily for you in this way. Almost everything that, well, in fact, as we talk about this emotional scale, and we talk about appreciation and love and passion and ecstasy being on this end of the scale, and on the other end of the scale, things like depression and fear, we often ask you to acknowledge that on the end that feels so wonderful, there is your perception of freedom. And on the end that feels so awful is your perception of not freedom. Now, one of the things that we've noticed that is powerful in your mass consciousness, and it is certainly present in everyone that you know, is this innate desire to be free. And in your physical environment, there is a constant sort of clamoring of society in its misunderstanding of law of attraction and in its misunderstanding of the laws of the universe, specifically law of attraction. A society that finds, and we're talking about, of course, individuals within society that make up the mass consciousness, that believe that the way to them feeling better is by controlling the circumstances that they don't feel good when they see. And so all of the laws and rules that come about in your attempt to socialize with one another come from this flawed premise that I am not free while every part of my being wants to be. And we think that almost without exception, the majority of the fantasies that you are talking about are conjured, even at unconscious levels, into a result that expresses, at least in this moment, that I am free. It's almost a defiance against the laws that I've learned, the rules that I've learned, the expectations that society or religion or parents have put upon me. It's like in this quiet, dark, private place, I am going to find freedom, and they're reaching for it almost in a sort of rebellious way. And as we've been saying all along, that feeling of moving up the emotional scale always feels like release. it always feels like the releasing of resistance. And even that orgasmic experience that you are describing is a releasing of resistance. It's a letting go and a releasing of. And so it feels to us as if it all fits together. Now we want to say to you that as people are, everyone is having their own experience, and you can't really know, even with your intimate partners, exactly what vibrational points of relativity they are using in order to focus their mind. But as they are focusing themselves into that which you are deeming by their response as a pleasurable response, you must know that somehow they've managed their vibration into a place of relief. And the thing that we so much in all of this gathering have been talking about here today, we want you not to call that this release up here, when I release hope and go into belief, as a more virtuous release than when I release bondage and go into rage. In other words, one release is not deemed more virtuous than another. In other words, it's a release. And so what we're saying to you is there are sexual partners who are molding their mind and finding fantasies and finding ways of pronouncing their freedom, and they are defiantly having their sexual experiences, and they're having one kind of experience. And there are others that are having their sexual encounters on a whole other part of the emotional scale, and nobody except those having any experience gets to deem the appropriateness or inappropriateness of it. We would not, if we were standing in your physical shoes, even try to understand or correct or guide even what our partner is doing mentally. In other words, let it be your experience and leave everyone else to their own experience. And understand, as we've said several times here today, that there are all kinds of sensations of releasing resistance as you are moving up the emotional scale. We also would like to add that when that life experience causes you to become, and as you came forth into these physical bodies, you had appetites that were set into motion from your non-physical experience for the perpetuation and the longevity of your species. In other words, these are innate and natural intentions that are within all of you. No matter what your sexual preference is, those intentions are within all of you. And so when you are living life experience, you are launching these rockets of desires, and as you close that gap, there is always satisfaction. So we would like to say to you that the most exhilarating, the most godly sensations of connection are not unassociated with sexuality. In other words, everything that you are about is source energy and connection to who you are deliberately. No matter what you're involved in, always makes it a more delicious experience. And so we would not for a moment try to separate the sexual experience from the experience of connection. And we will say further that when sexual experience is experienced from a place of connection, there is no greater satisfaction.
I would agree with that.
Very good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed.